Joining us in the studio today is Gary Bannatyne, Managing Director of Shaper, a company that helps South African businesses meet their BE targets and help the unemployed youth to become future fit for the workplace. Well, Gary, welcome to Biz News.
Thanks, Linda. Thanks for having me.
Well, your team sent a pack just to get us up to shape on what's going on in your business. And there was a line that I just couldn't ignore. So I think we need to get that out of the way. You said not all BBB or triple BEE is bad. Well, that's a bold statement, especially with growing pressure on the Ramaphosa government to soften empowerment rules. So what exactly did you mean by that?
Well, Linda, we obviously we are very opinionated about some other BE legislation, but in the skills development space, and we've been working in the space for a very long time, we believe that if done correctly, it's really impactful. And with all what's going on in the media around BE and the corruption associated to it and benefiting a few at the expense of many, we proudly have been working in the skills development space for over a decade, and there is so much value being delivered. And I think it's important for some big corporates and companies that are turning a revenue of over 50 million to know that there's an opportunity in BE and not just a burden as it's seen by many people.
Yeah, so the distinction should be made probably between, benefiting a few and benefiting many, which you say you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Like skills development, according to the codes, and I'm not a BE specialist, but we've been playing in the space for a long time. It's how do we get upskill many people that are either bottlenecked, that haven't been given those opportunities. Us as a business over time have not discriminated against a young white in South African, but our primary business is to develop a lot of young Black, male, female, previously disabled individuals, and give them the skills in order to fast track them into getting a job. It's not necessarily, and Linda, I think this is important for the listeners to understand. And I think we're gonna echo it over and over again in this discussion if it comes up. But skills development and the compliance requirement around the regulations of BE is not just around spending money so that you can train some people. What we have to look at it is how do we upskill individuals to be able to assist in your workforce? How do we assist young individuals to get skills to be able to be work ready for your workforce? And if not your workforce, how do we use those compliance requirements around the legislation to increase the value of your industry, whether it's the finance sector or the industrial sector or whatever. But it's critical that we don't see it as a burden. And this disconnect you have between and Linda, you will see this in many of our top 100 companies in this country, is you've got the HR requirement, how are we resourcing our business, and the strategy around resourcing our business. And then you've got the BE requirement, and you wouldn't believe in many cases they do not talk to each other. So it is critical for me to just underscore the idea that all BE is not bad, because if you connect your HR and your human resource requirement to your compliance requirements around skills development, it's absolutely a game changer, and we've seen it with many of our clients historically.
Okay, that's quite interesting. So can we look at what is the legal mandate in South Africa for companies to spend on skills development? Can we just go over that for people who might not know?
Yeah, so typically I think that anyone listening that is turning a revenue over 50 million a year has now a mandatory requirement on skills development, anything between 3 and 6% of their payroll. And that means that in order to participate, in order to keep a score, in order to benefit your business from a scorecard perspective, you need to invest in this. And the word invest is not often thrown around when it comes to the landscape, but you have a mandatory requirement to do this. And And for us, the it, it's such a grudge purchase. I mean, we are overwhelmed with clients that are looking to do it to tick a box. People are afraid to breach the 50 million mark because they know they're going to be moving into territory that, and rightfully so, right? Like you move, and as a business person myself, moving from the threshold of 50 million turnover, you now are thinking about, well, we've been trying to focus on just doing business, and now we've got to do business with all these extra bells and whistles that we don't really care too much about, until you can start thinking in the mindset of how do we marry that with our skills pipeline, our strategy around talent coming into our business. Because, and Linda, we'll touch on it, but when people talk about the basket that is comprises the skills development landscape, it's internships and learnerships and the YES program. And there's a lot of bad taste because in many instances, this hasn't been done well. It's you tell someone, if you put a camera in front of someone and say, how's your skills development programs going? They're like, oh, it's so impactful, so great. You take the camera away and people are like, oh, it's such a burden. Like it's a box ticking exercise. So yeah, I think that there's a lot of bad, I wouldn't say bad. I mean, maybe I would say bad, but it's just a bad sentiment around it. It's not like people aren't doing well at it. I mean, a few are, and I believe we are, but it shouldn't be. It should be seen as a competitive advantage for a business that has breached the compliance requirement. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that competitive advantage and those, in the words BBBE, triple E, they've changed the word so much eventually.
Yeah.
I don't know how long that's going to become eventually. It does seem for companies like a burden. So take us through the steps. What would you do if somebody comes to you, oops, I've just breached that 50 million mark. What now?
Yeah. So if you breach the 50 million mark, it's not like you have a huge requirement anyway. So we do a calculation with our prospective clients, and most people in the space would do that, or I think the good ones are doing it. And you would just do a calculation saying, look, this is what you're required to spend, and actually, in fact, with your tax rebates, etc., you're able to get a net effect of quite a minimal spend. So once our prospective clients see that the net effect is not as significant as they once imagined, it starts the ball rolling around, okay, how do we do this and do this well and not just do this and tick a box? So we would then manage our clients in that way and try get an understanding of where they want to spend their money, because skills development is a big basket. You have our flagship products, and what gets maximum recognition for points in the ecosystem are learnerships, and learnerships are big endeavors. They're not just hey, let's invite some young kids for the weekend, tell them about AI, and see if we can tick a box and move on. A learnership's a commitment. You've got a 12-month stipend. You've looking after a human for a period of 12 months with the intent to get them out the door in incredible condition. And when I say incredible condition, I'm not talking about people that are going to replace you, Linda. And I'm not talking about people that are going to take over middle management and people that are going to just hit the ball and hit the ground and become senior executives. I'm talking about a very simple, how do you get into an office, into a job, and just add value? Just because anyone, that's all you can expect, is to just add value. So we walk through this process with our clients. One of our biggest advantages, and I'm careful not to just push our agenda here, because I think it needs to be an industry concept that is well adopted, which it isn't, Linda, and I'm kind of grumpy about that. But when you invest in skills, if you just say to someone, Linda, if you said to me, Gary, here's 2 million rand. I've got a skills development requirement. My BEE consultant has told me that we need to spend it on this, and you can give me maximum recognition on your learnerships. And I say, great, we'll take your money. That doesn't really help well, I mean, it does help, because obviously we deploying that money and that sponsorship into individuals and creating opportunities and jobs. But for the sponsoring company, it's really important to understand, like I mentioned earlier, what is their human resource and human capital requirement. If they are a tech company or a small company that is trying to bring in junior talent, and they're working in a specific tech stack. So, Linda, it's important to say that we focus on scarce and critical skills. So our kind of bread and butter as a business, as a for-profit business, is to really go after high demand, in-demand skills. And so when we engage with our client, they will say to us, okay, look, we have a demand for full stack developers. And we will work very closely with them to make sure that we are developing full stack developers, so that they're not just getting this disconnect where a learnership is finished after 12 months. You've got this product that you've been working on that has been really hard to achieve from a sponsorship perspective and implementation perspective. And then these individuals are misaligned with what the industry wants and where the job vacancies are. And I'm certain you guys as BizNews have probably spent some time discussing what are the most in-demand skills. Like, if I don't like talking about the fourth industrial revolution. We don't care too much about that, because whatever we're in now is an absolute scramble for talent. And unfortunately, what industry has done, and especially when we started out, if you don't mind me talking about this, when we started over a decade ago, you would find, let's say the banking sector as an example, or the financial sector. There has been this huge transition from moving from being a bank or an insurer to a tech company. It's how they define themselves, I believe. I mean, from the cheap seats where I'm at, as the future of their industry is converting themselves into this tech company, which is pretty much every business needs to be doing that, or has been doing that for the past decade. And what was happening, Linda, is that the blue bank would employ someone from the green bank, and then the green bank would employ someone from the red bank.
Mhm.
And there was the circulation of talent. Now, what happened traditionally is that they were shopping around with their competitors. So in order to secure that job, they were going to have to pay a premium to get that person out of their job. And because everyone kept paying a premium, the market price of the individuals went up, and the expertise and experience layer slightly plateaued. So you weren't getting guys in industry that were like really cutting their teeth and mastering their trade. I say that very loosely, so a lot of people are going to abuse me for that. But just on a kind of junior level, we saw it. That there was a circulation of talent, and it created this inflated market-related price on value. And I tie it back down to the pipeline of talent. If and some of our banking partners have been brilliant at this, is they identify that we're not here for tomorrow, we're here for the next 5 years, we're here for the next 10 years. How do we invest in the future? And we know that the future in 10 years' time is going to be the junior of today. And that's where we really spend time trying to understand the demand of our partners, so that we can get that we can panel beat the young individuals and get them work ready in a skill that they can get a job and then run the full distance and start the chapter of working in South Africa.
So where do you find these young people? Because South Africa has a massive unemployment rate. There's arguments of how much it is, but I think the figure that's bandied around is about 40%. So where do you get these young people that would, because you talked about quite sophisticated jobs just now, to get them ready?
Yeah, and sophisticated in our world is I mean, everyone needs junior talent, right? You can't build a tech business or any sort of business just with seniors and experts. You have to have individuals that are be able to into the workforce doing menial tasks and start like getting a command of a specific skill. So I'm not talking about, I mean, we do cyber programs and data science programs, but I'm still talking about a young individual that can start adding value. And by adding value is not one of these programs where you land on the floor, it's very superficial, and you get circulated around a business for 18 months, and then only then do you realize that we now need to get this person to work. No, when that person lands, they need to start adding value to your business. So to answer your question around where we find this talent is, Linda, there is so much talent. There is so much talent because I don't know when you went to university, but I did once.
The
And
keys?
me as well, Takis. And I don't ever remember someone talking to me at university. I'm not talking about Takis or all of the top universities. This is definitely not knocking them. But it was always about getting your degree. It wasn't about getting a job. So there's so many institutions in this country that have this mindset that get the qualification. And we won't talk about that, the job part. Go to a small institution, a private institution, get an NQF or a very entry level accreditation, which is a great accreditation. Just get that, and you'll be fine. No one is talking about the job, and it's such a big part. The accreditation is actually a ticket to a job. It shouldn't be your final destination. So back to your question. When there's so much talent, there's this almost overflow of talent coming into the market from your kind of second tier universities. And when we put out let's say one of our banking partners, our financial services partners come in and they say they want to run a data science program. If we put out a post for a group of 10 individuals, we can only take 10. Linda, we'll get about 3,000 applications.
They're there. They're definitely there.
They're there. The question is not the hardest part of our work is finding the right people fit for our partner. And when I say fit for our partner, I mean, do they have the right aptitude and attitude to succeed in a banking environment or a data environment or a logistics environment? If they do, that's who we've got to go through this haystack and find the needle. And do they have the qualifications that meet the criteria for our partners? So some of our partners would want just a matric, a black young South African that has a matric, or specifically female, if that is their strategic agenda. And then we have the further challenge, which is a really exciting challenge, is are they going to be culturally relevant for that business? Every business has their own cultural kind of values, and we then source and screen this talent and then put them in there. We have an incredible team with our HQ in Joburg, and just trying to go through that process. I mean, sadly, there's a lot of disappointment, right? If you're getting 3,000 applications and you can only take 10, what does that say for our ecosystem? It means that a lot of people are being let down, and there's a lot of opportunity in this space. But I suppose we just want to win and do well in where we can, and that's your last mile between I've done a diploma in information technology, or I've got a comp sci degree from a top tier university. I'm looking to get a job in a really good business. Shaper is the last mile where they come in, we panel beat the hell out of them. It has to be work simulated. So we can't just train someone and then just hand them over and say, here's this person, enjoy. We have to panel beat them to a point where they are work ready, and that's our little role in the market, if you know what I mean.
Well, to end off, can you share some success story of where this really worked well and all the principles you've talked about just click together?
So there's in every situation, we are seeing incredible stories and success stories. We can't claim to be perfect as an organization, but we damn well try. And you're finding individuals in most cases that they have nots, that haven't had access to the economy, haven't had access to the financial systems and structures, and that very basic element of the codes is giving someone access to the economy. So from a basic success is that once we are finding top candidates for very, very good partners, we're able to give them their first job specifically in our unemployed learnership programs. And that is a success story in itself. Scattered amongst that, success is, it's not always the violin story. I can guarantee you 80% to 90% of all candidates come through will tell you a story about their journey to get a qualification to get a job through a business like Shaper, and it'll be tough for you not to cry, because it is tough as hell out there. So that is 80 to 90% of candidates coming through, right? So for us, we live and breathe in that environment. And then you've got these little scattered pearls of wisdom where we've had businesses that really pull together their human resource requirement, their skills development requirement, their BEE spend, and then they sprinkle a little bit of really kiff values and really strong cultural ethics around, actually, let's not just do this, let's do this very well. And those are the success stories that pop out, specifically with our financial services partners, because they have considerably a big spend in the tech space.
So, Gary, what is one of your biggest challenges?
Linda, the landscape is tough generally, just because there's a lot of people that are taking the piss, a lot of people that are trying to create these learning interventions and these last mile interventions for individuals in an unethical way. It's just like, get in, charge little, get out. And someone who was sitting their hands before the skills intervention has finished, has got a piece of paper, and they're sitting on their hands again. So that is one of our biggest challenges, navigating what we offer to the market versus what other people are offering. There's a lot of good. Some of our competitors are doing a relatively good job. Obviously, we're quite confident in our own. And the second thing is just there's been some changes in the ecosystem. For anyone who's listening that is part of an HR team or a scorecard compliance team would know that the changeover from the CETAs to a central QCTO has been really tough on businesses. It's also been really tough on our competitors, because it has been a significant change, and it's been a painful change because everything's kind of had to move over to the QCTO, and there's been this delayed process with some of the core accreditation principles. I need to add that we don't, how we've survived this as Shaper is we don't just offer a QCTO or CETA accredited course to our learners and candidates. We do. They walk out with an accreditation, but the real world in-demand skills make up about 70% of the time we spend with our learners. So the accreditation is a small part, which is an important part, and it's a ticket to the recognition. But where the rubber hits the road is actually developing individuals based on demand for our clients. And this QCTO CETA has been really disruptive, because a lot of people have been working on this archaic. We have a data science learnership. We offer the data science learnership, and then the QCTO has said, well, that is either no longer, or you can't do that in this specific way. And a lot of people have then fallen by the wayside, saying, well, that's a challenge for them. So other than that, I would say maybe even a third little curveball challenge has been just to educate corporates that there is a better way to achieve and take advantage of their BEE spend. It's actually the way it should be looked at, Linda. And maybe my last thought on this is, it's almost like a cheat code. Like, the codes have a mandatory requirement for you to spend. But if you spend it well and you align it to your strategy around human pipeline talent development, you're almost gaming the system.
So, Gary Bannatyne from Shaper, thanks so much for speaking to us.
Thank you, Linda. Appreciate it.